They lay scattered on the ground, unconscious. Fortunately, they were all still barely alive, clinging to life by a thread. The surviving group had temporarily managed to hold back the flood of zombies. But ironically, they were now trapped in this confined space. If they remained besieged in this airtight cellar, they might even run out of air to breathe. The immediate danger had been temporarily averted. Now, the urgent task was to find a way out, and fast. Suddenly, a wall collapsed, revealing a passage. It was none other than the ferocious leader, charging towards them to attack. Everything descended into chaos once more. Baron Samedi raised his arm with menacing power. Grotesque and horrifying tentacles slowly emerged. They swept across the space, flinging soldiers aside. They looked up, their eyes filled with worry and fear, intently watching as the item just snatched from him dissolved into thin air. His eyes flashed with a terrifying, evil purple light. Baron Samedi let out a savage, twisted, and horrifying laugh. His razor-sharp teeth were bared. Witnessing the horrific scene before them, a chill ran down their spines, making their blood run cold and goosebumps erupt like waves. Suddenly, a voice shattered the silence, making him freeze and slowly turn towards the source of the sound. "You bastard, stop right there." Jumbo immediately recognized the familiar voice. Overjoyed, he shouted out the name Sergeant Lee Hyung-guk. His entire body was stained crimson with blood. Hyung-guk stood firm, his eyes blazing with furious fire. "What the hell is going on here? How dare you touch my comrades?" He strode forward, his gaze sharp as a razor, his voice cold and commanding. "You headlight eyes, listen up. Only I'm allowed to bully them. You have no right." Hearing this, they froze, mouths agape, and eyes wide with shock. "What?" Suddenly, the system announced. "Warning, a massive amount of magic power, a massive amount of energy has been consumed. Be careful, mana is down to 32%. He glanced away, thinking to himself, easy for you to say. I'm not exactly swimming in energy either. I still haven't figured out how to take down that monster. What Shin Baron Samedi slowly raised his hand, preparing for a fatal blow. He tightened his grip on his weapon, his face filled with caution. Is he going for a ranged attack? Immediately, his comrade dashed toward a nearby stone platform to dodge. Suddenly, Baron Samedi gritted his teeth and froze. His eyes widened in confusion. What's happening? Why isn't he attacking? Just then, his teammates sprang into action. Jun Mo commanded, "Kim Kyung-jin, Choi Taeyong." Privates Kim Kyung-jin and Choi Taeyong responded swiftly. "Open your kits." Without hesitation, those called upon immediately began searching. The lid bursts open, revealing brilliant, glowing orbs and a multitude of special equipment hidden within. As for Hyun-guk, the young man looks up, his eyes fixed on the colossal urn above, pondering. Could all of this really be because of that thing? Baron Samedi unleashes a devastating kick upon the zombies below, his terrifying power radiating outwards. The ground cracks and splinters under the immense force. He raises his massive foot, aiming it directly at Hyun-guk. The young man looks up, his eyes sharp, teeth gritted, his face etched with intense focus. But just as the deadly foot is about to descend, Hyun-guk, quick as lightning, leaps to the side, dodging by a hair's breadth. Tentacles from Baron Samedi's hands lash out like frenzied venomous snakes, attacking him relentlessly. Hyun-guk focuses intently, spinning and dodging the fatal blows by the narrowest of margins. The soldiers quickly open their kits, simultaneously tossing the contents into the air. A blinding light erupted midair. Sergeant Lee swiftly caught it. He then quietly slipped into a small cave where important treasures were kept. A faint noise startled him, putting him on high alert. Samedi immediately spun around, his eyes blazing with fury as he raised a massive fist. Dark energy surged around his arm. Without hesitation, Samedi launched sharp, spear-like tentacles forward with incredible speed. They aimed directly for the strike team hidden within the cave. At the same time, Hyun rushed in to support. Suddenly, a voice echoed throughout the space. The system unlocked, displaying information about the item. Unleash the power of the Asiller Hero Spear. The spear's attack effect inflicts wounds that cannot be healed, consumes a large amount of mana. Upon use, mana consumed, 21% of current mana. Remaining mana, 11%. Hyun strained, gripping the red and black energy weapon tightly in his hand. He was surrounded by a furious aura, radiating immense power. Without a moment's hesitation, he brandished the sharp sword in his hand. On Mintoy, create a shield in front. Hurry, he shouted. With that, he spun around and gripped his long spear tightly. He then thrust the spear directly into the monster's tentacle, diverting its attack. Hearing the command, a solid defensive barrier instantly formed, blocking Samedi's ferocious assault. He unleashed a powerful surge of green light, flowing like a soft ribbon of silk. The light quickly wrapped around the support canister that was floating in midair, amidst the chaotic scene in the cave. A soldier turned and shouted worriedly, and Min Tu, are you all right? He gripped his partially broken shield. The other soldier replied, Min Tu is fine, sir. As soon as the canister was secured in his hand, Hyun-guk didn't hesitate to open it and drink it all down. The mana star system appears, displaying his current level. His mana rapidly replenishes to a significant amount within 5 minutes. After the attack, he casually wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. His eyes gleam with a defiant challenge, bright as headlights. Luminous orbs hover in midair, vibrating softly. With a provocative tone, he says, I am your true opponent. Finishing his sentence, the brother immediately raises his hand, causing the glowing orbs to tremble intensely. Immediately afterward, they shoot forward and swirl in front of Samedi, emanating a powerful surge of energy, forcing him to narrow his eyes. Focusing intently, a clear voice rings out, breaking the silence. Instantly, the orbs vibrate violently. Their surfaces crack with countless fissures, as electric blue sparks erupt from within, flashing incessantly. At the same time, a spear rips through the air with lightning speed. He lunged at him with terrifying, brutal force. But just before the moment of impact, a magic shield suddenly appeared, stopping the attack in the blink of an eye. He frowned and pinched the spear with 3 fingers. My brother arrived, just as I predicted. His magic shield is the true obstacle. If this continues, I will be defeated. Seeing him charge forward, he immediately turned around, swinging his tentacles in a sweeping motion to block and counterattack. He frowned, gritting his teeth, clenching his fists, and raising his hands to block the fierce attack. I can't keep fighting like this. I have to find his weakness. My comrades are still waiting behind me. Taking advantage of the moment Samedi was focusing his attack, a soldier quickly raised a vial in his hand. Hyun-guk nimbly dodged, while simultaneously formulating a quick plan in his mind. He hasn't fully evolved yet. There must be some weakness, some flaw. There has to be a vulnerability somewhere. He roared savagely, like a wounded beast. His eyes blazed with fury as he charged forward. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with frustration. But where was his weakness? Where could it be? Suddenly, the other soldier slammed the object onto the ground. It shattered into pieces in an instant. Witnessing this, one of them cried out in horror, Kim Jae-ji, what the hell are you doing? Hearing the shout, he immediately turned his head. A look of caution flashed in his eyes, as Jae-ji raised his sword to strike at something amidst the debris. The person beside him stopped him. Where did you get that sword? Don't touch things in the dungeon. We don't know what they do. Do you hear that? He's gripping his weapon tightly, his eyes resolute. He's saying, no matter what, we're going to be slaughtered. Sergeant Lee is in danger too, trying to protect us. I have to do something to help him. Hearing this, Junmo could only clench his teeth, unable to argue. Suddenly, he spun around. His fist tightened as he unleashed a powerful punch towards them. Sensing the imminent danger, he urgently shouted, Jae-jin, stab it, quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, his tentacles surged forward like a furious storm, ripping through the air with terrifying speed, aimed directly at them. He immediately leaned to the side, dodging the attack, feeling the powerful gust of wind brush past him. At that moment, Jae-jin used all his strength, plunging his weapon deep into the object on the ground. Baron Samedi roared in agony. A blood-curdling scream ripped through the silence, shattering the stillness. His body convulsed violently, trembling uncontrollably. Then he stumbled and collapsed to the ground, unconscious. The grotesque tentacles writhed and thrashed wildly before falling to where they had stood. Hyun-guk quickly raised his hand to shield his face from the thick dust. He stumbled towards the raid team. He squinted, tensely scanning his surroundings, trying to find his teammates. Where is everyone? He whispered. If you're alive, please say something. Within the dust cloud, figures began to stir. They struggled to push themselves up from the ground. Hearing the call, Junmo immediately responded, reporting Sergeant. Park Junmo is still alive. We're okay. He breathed a sigh of relief. Turning back, he wondered in a panic. What the hell is going on? Just then, Samedi was sitting on the ground, clutching his chest. His face was contorted in pain. He slowly turned his head. His dark eyes stared intently at the artifact vessel. In a flash, the artifact vessel began to spin violently and transformed into a vibrant, pulsating red heart. From the heart, a mysterious energy radiated outwards. Hyun-guk was stunned into silence. His eyes widened in astonishment at the scene unfolding before him. The moment the heart appeared, a sense of foreboding washed over him. He instinctively turned his head, his gaze fixed on the impaled object, now lying still on the ground. He froze as he recognized its familiar shape. Baron Samedi roared in fury, his scream tearing through the air. Waves of purple shockwaves spread out, violently shaking the entire room. Aya! He threw back his head and roared, his eyes blazing a terrifying red. An aura of wrathful, spectral energy emanated from his body. A deafening explosion erupted, a powerful sonic wave crashing down, forcing everyone to cover their ears. Red text suddenly appeared on the system, mandating a forced reboot of the Bone Leader inheritance. Baron Samedi inheritance, 66.6%. He continued to roar madly, the purple energy emanating from his body growing denser and more terrifying. The system display immediately issued a danger warning. The magical energy from the remaining souls was being absorbed by the Bone-Dry leader at a terrifying rate. The level limit for players entering the dimensional gate had been raised from level 30 to level 35. Hyun-guk smiled brightly, his voice sure. Exactly. That's his weak spot. So those strange jars all had a hidden purpose. Suddenly, everything became clear in his mind. He quickly pieced together the fragmented information. According to the ancient legends of Egypt, the internal organs of mummies were carefully preserved inside special jars. Canopic jars. Canopic jars, where the organs of the embalmed were kept. If he really is a mummy, then his heart must be holding his soul inside. Immediately after, he stared at the pulsating purple circle in the middle of Samedi's chest. His heart is his fatal weakness. Guk excitedly spotted a critical weakness in his opponent. He quickly raised his arm, marked with an arrow symbol, his gaze intensely focused. The enemy had made a grave mistake, relying too heavily on his defenses. A mere collection of lifeless, uninspired underlings. This was his golden opportunity. Without hesitation, he released a sharp arrow. The arrow ripped through the air with terrifying speed, shattering the air as it hurtled towards its intended target. But just as the arrow was about to strike true, a blood-red shield suddenly materialized, protecting the enemy. The system immediately displayed information about Tristan's divine bow. Special effect: target lock and piercing penetrates any obstacle. Magic resistance nullification completely negates the target's magic resistance. The divine arrow effortlessly shattered the red shield, piercing through and deeply embedding itself in the target, rendering all his defenses useless in an instant. Samedi grimaced in pain, his eyes fixated on the arrow lodged in his body. A system warning flashed in bright red letters. The formidable Bone Chieftain was relentlessly absorbing magic from his underlings to restore his dwindling life force. His expression suddenly changed, a chilling smile spreading across his grotesque face, revealing sharp teeth in a triumphant grin. Immediately after, countless tentacles shot out from his body, lunging towards the young man. Wu Yin gripped his divine spear, his gaze fixed resolutely on his enemy. In a surge of fury, he planted his back foot, gathering momentum, and roared, "You still dare to laugh? Take this, my true attack." The system appeared before Wu Yin once again. Information about the item, the heroic Axilla spear, and its special effects were displayed. This spear's attack will inflict wounds that cannot be healed. The young man thought to himself, this blow will leave him unable to regenerate. Wu Yin decisively hurled the divine spear in his hand, shouting, "Pierce!" The Axilla spear tore through the air with terrifying speed, piercing through the numerous tentacles blocking its path. Each thrust aimed directly, aimed straight at the opponent's chest, and unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. With unstoppable force, It pierced through the sturdy defenses and burrowed deep into the body. Samedi screamed in agony, 7 ear-splitting cries reaching the heavens. Each surge of pain like 1,000 blades tearing his flesh apart. Hyun-gut hurled his weapon forward, countering the incoming tentacles that rushed at him with blinding speed. From afar, a soldier swiftly approached from the flank. The young soldier's mind was preoccupied with his spear when suddenly the warning system blared, announcing a massive mana depletion. In a remarkably short time, mana regeneration completely halted. Current mana, 0%. His eyes widened, his body froze. Damn it, I'm dead. Lee Hyun-gut nimbly dodged. As the ferocious tentacles launched their attack, he skillfully evaded the danger by a hair's breadth. Mid-movement, he suddenly jolted in terror as he noticed a tentacle reaching out from behind him, completely unaware of the lurking danger. However, in a split second, a soldier from afar rushed forward, using his shield to protect the boy just in time. The boy spun around and yelled, "On Min-tae, what are you doing?" Without a moment to reply, On Min-tae immediately created a magic shield in front of them. Thanks to this magic barrier, the grotesque tentacles couldn't directly attack them at that moment. But its terrifying power still forced their feet to instinctively step back. They stood behind the sturdy shield, carefully observing the monster's every move. Min-tae turned around and asked worriedly, "Corporal Yeo Wygon, are you alright?" Yeo Wygon looked at the magic barrier, his face filled with astonishment, and muttered, "That skill, could it be?" He recalled the fierce battle with a multi-armed monster earlier, then thought about witnessing on Min-tae's rapid growth. After entering the dungeon, I leveled up dramatically. On Min-tae thought to himself. Then he bravely used his shield to block the monster's ferocious tentacle attacks. Minty began to recount the story. The last time I took that critical hit from the Bone Chief, he leveled up. And right then, a system notification rang out. "Congratulations! You've reached level 20. You have received a new skill. Magic Shield Level 1. This skill uses mana to create a magical shield, significantly increasing the user's defense." After carefully reading the information, Minty was astonished. He excitedly boasted to Hwin, "I finally got a shield skill. Awesome, even though its level is still pretty low. It will definitely be a huge help to the whole team." Hwin Guk suddenly burst out in anger, making Minty jump. "You idiot! How could you put your faith in a skill that you've never even used before? You almost died, Min." Minty looked down sadly, his eyes welling up. I just wanted to protect you and everyone." Hwin smiled gently and ruffled Minty's hair. "I understand, but my duty is to protect everyone, so don't be too reckless." Hearing these words, his face flushed with a hint of shyness. "Yes, thank you," he reassured. "Save the thanks for when we get out of here." Suddenly, Baron Samedi roared in fury, shaking the entire space violently. Red alert alarms blared. Due to continuous damage, the Bone Leader's inherited power was neutralized. He furrowed his brow, gritting his teeth, his eyes filled with resentment. He stared at the arrow and spear embedded in his chest, trying to use his skills to heal himself. However, the system issued another red alert. "Warning, incomplete death spirit has spread throughout the body. The body will rapidly decompose and return to dust." Unable to accept this truth, he let out a horrifying scream. "Ah!" The terrifying sound rolled like a storm, accompanied by a thick cloud of smoke, forcing both of them to raise their shields in defense, trying to block the terrifying sonic wave from penetrating. Countless tentacles on the monster's body began to writhe chaotically, lashing out wildly to form a deadly vortex. These tentacles lunged towards Minty and Hyun-guk, stretching out with terrifying speed. Suddenly, they abruptly changed direction, launching a ferocious attack on a different area. Then, the remaining tentacles began to destroy everything around them in a frenzy. Their rage shook the very ground, sending debris flying. Hyun-guk gritted his teeth, observing the situation, and thought, "This monster, it's lost control of its body, and yet it's still thrashing in its death throes? You want to drag us all down with you?" At that moment, the raid team charged forward. "Choi-tae, use your firepower to obscure its vision." Receiving the order, Choi-tae quickly knelt down, firing a barrage of bright bullets from his weapon. A relentless barrage of bullets attacked like a furious storm, leaving him disoriented and unable to react. A commanding voice boomed, ordering a simultaneous attack on his weak point. "Wait until Ha Si Lee, Hyun-guk, recovers his magical energy. We will launch a surprise attack to break through the enemy's formation. They responded in unison. Understood. Samedi refused to sit still and wait for death. He frantically controlled the giant tentacles, lashing out at them. Hyun-guk yelled in worry, Park Junmo, don't be reckless. He turned his head, his gaze firm as he looked at Ha-Si-Lee and shook his head in refusal. Ha-Si-Lee, Hyun-guk, let's buy you some time. We'll create an opportunity for you to finish him off. Hearing these words, he was speechless, choked with emotion. The system suddenly announced, your magical energy is being restored. Current energy level is 9%. Enraged by the constant harassment, he opened his mouth wide and roared in fury. Countless tentacles from all directions frantically reached out to attack, creating a furious whirlwind that engulfed the entire surrounding space. The system announced, your mana is recovering. Current magical energy has reached 12%. The soldiers nimbly dodged the monster's ferocious attacks. Each of their movements was precise and timely, without a single error. But he was helpless, only able to watch. He stared at the slowly rising mana recovery percentage on the screen. He gritted his teeth, his heart filled with frustration. Suddenly, a terrified scream echoed. I'm out of ammo! A soldier cried out in despair. Immediately after, a giant tentacle grazed him, but he quickly dodged. Seeing the situation becoming increasingly critical, he decided he had to act to change the tide of the battle. Hwang Gukhayan boldly stepped towards the monster and roared, You bastard! I'm here! I'm your real opponent. With that, he leaped into the air, leaving behind only a faint blue streak that quickly dissipated into the air. He moved continuously at breakneck speed, each step, each jump leaving a brilliant, dazzling stream of energy, and created shimmering, mystical trails of light in the air. Each arrow embedded in Samit suddenly began to glow brightly, vibrating intensely as if influenced by an immense energy source. At that moment, his remaining weapons also started to emit a dazzling light. The Guk brothers suddenly remembered the canopic jars they had found. To defeat this terrifying skeletal leader, they had to destroy the organs stored inside those jars. 3 jars had been found containing the liver, heart, and he suddenly realized what the final piece was. And that was the moment he decided to charge towards the final target. The leader's horrifying roar echoed, mingled with his determined cry. The two clashed fiercely. The earth-shattering sounds of their impact reverberated throughout the space. He gritted his teeth, focusing all his will on controlling the Tristan bow. A surge of spiritual power enveloped the bow. As it hurtled towards its target, the system suddenly displayed information. Information about Tristan's treasure is displayed. Effect locks onto the target and penetrates all obstacles, regardless of the barrier. The target's magic resistance is completely nullified. The treasure pierces through the sturdy defense, stabbing straight into Samedi's eye. A large hole appears. He screams in excruciating pain. Without giving Samedi time to react, he quickly closes the distance, closing in on the target. His eyes are sharp, ready for the next attack. Hyuk grits his teeth and raises his weapon high. If you are a king, act like a true king. You bastard, stop these despicable acts. As soon as he finishes speaking, he unleashes a fatal blow and disappears in a flash. You bastard. System introduction. Item information. Name, Cloud Sword. Effect. The legendary Cloud Sword has the ability to absorb moisture from the air and release a thick fog, allowing the user to become invisible. A mysterious, immense energy enveloped Yun Jian, consuming 49% of his power. He staggered, losing his balance and unable to stand. His body trembled violently, as if on the verge of collapsing at any moment. He quickly leaped into the air, then crashed back down to the earth with a ferocious impact. The powerful collision sent debris flying in all directions, creating a thick cloud of dust that obscured everything. The soldiers frantically raised their hands to shield their faces, trying to protect themselves from the sharp fragments hurtling towards them. A system message appeared in blazing red letters. Congratulations. You have won. You have successfully defeated the skeleton leader, Samedi. Seeing the announcement, everyone was stunned into speechless amazement. Did we really beat him? Junmo's eyes widened in disbelief. I think we did. After a moment of silence, everyone erupted in cheers of joy. Yahoo! Hyong stood over Samedi's body, raising his hand to retrieve the crown. He silently completed the quest. The system began analyzing the spoils of war. Congratulations. You have obtained the crown of light and shadow. Rank, mythical. Effect, significantly increases power. Grants resistance to damage from undead. Activates a special lock-on effect. He held it, examining it closely. What is this item? It never appeared in my previous life. Moreover, it possesses a special effect. Suddenly, a violent earthquake shook the ground, causing rocks to fall from above, terrifying everyone. The system alert flashed in bright red letters. Warning, Dako Fortress is collapsing. The skeleton general's fortress had begun to crumble. Jummo looked up and shouted, awaiting orders from Sergeant Lee Hyung-gu. He gritted his teeth, anxiously surveying the surroundings. We haven't collected all 10 items yet. Jummo quickly made a decision in the critical situation. The fortress is collapsing. Everyone retreat immediately. Upon receiving the order, everyone hurriedly retreated, rushing outside. The 2 towering spires beside the fortress suddenly exploded, then gradually collapsed, creating an earth-shattering explosion. Junmo signaled with his hand towards the exit. He urged everyone to move quickly. They escaped just in time, gasping for breath and exhaustion, but also filled with relief. A red system message appeared. Congratulations, you have successfully conquered. The conquest gate will now close. Upon seeing the warning, Jummo turned around. His eyes were fixed on the red gate, spinning faster and faster. Hyun-guk immediately rushed towards the gate, desperately calling out to his team members. Hurry! Don't hesitate! The gate is closing. Run! They ran with all their might, each step a desperate race against time. No one dared to delay, determined to escape before the gate closed completely. On the other side of the gate, members of the Blue Flower Guild stood in neat rows. All eyes were on the slowly closing gate. A man in a sharp suit spoke up. We need a group of players, all level 53 or higher. How can this expedition possibly succeed with our current level limits? Not to mention, we won't be allowed to act independently during this operation. The Blue Flower Guild has a lot to deal with afterwards. How can we possibly withstand their judgment? What responsibility will you bear if the Guang Corporation stops funding us? Do you think that if we leave right now, we can complete the mission quickly? Suddenly, the gate violently shook, catching their attention and making them turn around. Oh, the gate is closing. A voice echoed throughout the space, and all eyes turned towards the gate, unable to believe what was happening. It's closing? Impossible. The raid team already eliminated the insect inside, didn't they? From within the mystical gate, members of the Brotherhood poured out, their shouts echoing through the air. He quickly followed close behind. Just before the gate slammed shut, she and the person beside her watched in astonishment, their jaws dropping in disbelief. They embraced joyfully, cheers erupting all around. We made it out. We survived. Standing on the wall, he triumphantly called out to the raiding party. Hyung-guk, with a dignified and solemn air, spoke. You have all performed exceptionally well. Now, the conquest of the Red Gate is complete. He finished with a proud smile. They erupted in cheers once more. Hooray! Hina-jo furrowed his brow, his teeth grinding in anger. Am I seeing things? Those second-rate soldiers actually conquered the Red Gate. The subordinate behind him stammered nervously. Chief. She pressed her lips together, lost in thought. Serjanta Sirieo Yumbu. Just who is he? Meanwhile, deep within the Purgatory Gate, a figure ran frantically in a panic. Kim Taiju, his face drenched in sweat, his eyes filled with confusion and anxiety. I ran away as soon as the gate closure announcement appeared. It should be around here. Why can't I find it? He frantically ran everywhere through the withered trees, completely lost. His eyes were filled with terror. His body drenched in cold sweat. Fear surged. The gate is gone. Where did it go? Suddenly, he sensed a figure lurking behind him. He stopped abruptly and turned to look back. Kong Ho was leaning against the wall, half of his pale face hidden in the shadows, only his eyes gleaming with exhaustion. Tzeops, receiving no response, felt a surge of caution and cautiously approached. Back away. As Taesop was about to leave, a voice suddenly called out, "Don't go." Startled, he asked, "Who's there?" Then Taesop exclaimed in relief, So, you're human. You scared me half to death. Are you from the rescue team? Thank goodness. I thought I'd be stuck here forever. His eyes wide with excitement. He chattered nonstop. This is great. Let's get out of here. Where's the way out? The exit must be close by. Suddenly, he added, We need. Then Kong Ho abruptly vanished, making Taesop gasp in horror. What the? Before he could understand what was happening, he reappeared right behind Taesop, grabbing him in a flash. Baring his fangs, he yanked Taesop's collar and growled, "I need blood." A blood-curdling scream echoed through the silence. Moments later, Taesop lay motionless on the ground, his body withered, eyes wide open, bloodshot and tear-filled, with a bloody gash on his neck. He stood frozen, still as a statue. He looked down coldly at his freshly slain prey, eyes sharp as knives. Suddenly, the image of Hyun-guk flashed in his mind. His face was filled with arrogance and disdain. That bastard raised 2 fingers, a blinding green energy erupting forth. That damned soldier. Kang-ho looked up at the sky, his brows furrowed, teeth gritted. The blood staining the corner of his mouth only intensified the rage on his face. Just you wait. I will take everything you hold dear and slaughter them with my own hands. From within the dimensional gate, Hyun-guk's raid team members burst forth with blinding speed. Their battle cries echoed through the air. He too rushed forward, close behind them. Just before the gate slammed shut, they looked down at their bodies, still intact. Many embraced each other in overwhelming joy. We made it. We survived. We're back. Standing on a raised platform, Lee Hyun-guk leaned on his staff and boomed, "AMT raid team." He loudly praised everyone for completing the mission successfully. As of this moment, the surprise attack mission on the Red Gate has been a resounding success. Their spirits soared as they raised their hands to the sky and cheered. In the midst of the excitement, Hyun-jo frowned and gritted his teeth. Am I seeing things? Those useless, low-ranking soldiers, did they just completely wipe out the Red Gate? The worried assistant softly called out, "Sir Chief, Form 2 rows." He shouted while walking towards them, observing their neat formation. Hyun-jo crossed his arms, his tone cold as he asked, "What about our squad then?" He clasped his hands behind his back, standing tall as he replied, "When we arrived at the gate," he hesitated for a moment, taking a deep breath. It was already too late. He tilted his head, observing Hyun-jo with a probing look. "You mean this raid team completed the mission on their own?" He nodded in affirmation. "That's correct, sir. As you can see, I refuse to believe what you're saying. This is impossible." You didn't argue, you just calmly made a suggestion. You can verify it yourself once you have the analysis results. Hina's brows furrowed slightly, her eyes filled with suspicion. "Just who are you? Are you sure you're just an F-rank?" Hyun-guk stared at him with a challenging glare. "Do you believe me now? This isn't just simple luck." He didn't answer the question, only coldly uttering, I only make decisions after seeing the analysis results." Then he leaned closer, his voice a mysterious whisper. "But have you ever seen a spear in there? Perhaps it's in the hands of a Blue Flower Society member who's become one of the living dead. Or maybe it's in a secret treasure vault deep in the dungeon." Hearing this, his face went blank, lost in a sea of thought. The image of the violently shaking fortress flashed through his mind. He was trying to rally everyone then. The stronghold was on the verge of collapse. "Hurry! Everyone, get out of here!" The spear was still embedded deep in the giant monster's heart. He used his blue aura to summon the spear back and seal it within his mark. Skill information suddenly appeared on the system. Diamond skin, rank C. Significantly increased physical damage resistance. Secret mark allows the user to conceal an item by storing it in a subdimension. In an instant, it vanished neatly into his arm. Back in reality, Hyun-guk turned and shook his head. "I don't see any spear," she exclaimed in frustration. "Impossible. There must be." He couldn't hold back any longer and asked, "You've been constantly changing the subject. Are you trying to avoid the outcome of our match?" Annoyed, he wouldn't let her evade the question. He pressed the issue. "Head strategist of the Soul Branch of the Blue Flower Guild. Are you going back on your word?" Henna stammered nervously. He raised an eyebrow, patiently waiting for an answer. She lowered her head, gritting her teeth, but couldn't utter a word. Seeing no response, he shrugged and turned to leave. "It seems you're still in shock. So, I'll come back later to collect my promised reward." She quickly grabbed his sleeve. Her voice panicked. "Wait. I sincerely invite you to immediately join the Blue Flower Guild. I guarantee you'll receive the best treatment, surpassing any other guild." He narrowed his eyes, his hand clenching the torn fabric of his shoulder. "Does she think she can boss me around?" Suddenly, a booming voice echoed as a gleaming golden gate swung open. "Major General Choi Jong-cheon of the 3rd Monster Defense Division has arrived." He startled and shouted, "Sergeant Lee Hyun-gu, reporting for duty, sir," while giving a military salute. Choi Jong-cheon stepped out, laughing heartily. "Ha ha ha." His sharp gaze swept over the scene before him. Henna quickly released her grip on him. He winked, giving a probing smile. Don't tell me you're trying to steal away our key talent without my approval. Ha ha ha. She raised her hands in mock denial. Nothing of the sort. I was just showing a little concern. He suddenly glanced at her guild behind her. His voice dropped, by the way, as the Blue Flower Guild defied orders and formed an unauthorized, the separate surprise attack. She was a bit flustered and confused. Tried to explain, no, it's not like that. But before she could finish, he stepped closer and interrupted her. There are a lot of problems concerning the Google group. Yet the Blue Flower Guild dares to exceed the permitted limits at Redgate. His expression changed, becoming angry. He frowned and declared, I will write a formal complaint, an official document about this incident, to the head of the Blue Flower Guild. Furthermore, I think it's necessary to send a formal report on this matter too. Discuss it with the other guilds. Henna clenched her fists in anger, her nails digging into her skin until blood began to trickle out. He glanced at her silently, his cold eyes observing her trembling with her head bowed, unable to protest. A moment later, Hyun-guk was in the room, recounting the expedition to him. Dungeon Chun clapped his hands in applause. Really unbelievable. A 100% sweep. Truly extraordinary. I never thought you could bring me such outstanding results. He burst into laughter, overjoyed. Ha ha ha, ha ha. I can't wait to see the look on that old geezer, the Blue Flower Guild leader's face. He observed silently, thinking to himself, he's reveling in the thought of irritating them. Dungeon Chun, trying to contain his excitement, said, in all my years, I've never met anyone like you. Hyun-guk humbly replied, I don't deserve all the credit. I couldn't have done this alone. This result is thanks to the efforts of all the raid team members. Furthermore, the promise you made, not letting him finish. Dungeon Chun raised a finger to interrupt and change the subject. Besides, you possess such a noble character. I will promote every member of your team by 1 rank. I will also give you a chance to reconsider your rank. He stared at him in silence, eyes wide, not saying a word. But inside, he was screaming, here we go again, this sly old fox. He smiled and nodded slightly, pretending to not remember what had happened and offering his initial proposal. Gu-hyuk wouldn't let him get away with it and deliberately spoke loudly. I sincerely thank you for the promotion reward for the entire team. The rank reconsideration, along with the promised reward, truly fills me with immense gratitude for your generosity. Major General. Young Cheon was taken aback and turned his head. Exasperated, he blurted out, this kid's not easy to fool. Fine, what do you want? He cheerfully presented his idea. I desire that you equip my entire team with Holy Force enhanced weapons. Suddenly, a silence fell over the room. He was utterly astonished. The gate to the bone-dried dungeon has already closed, and yet you still want Holy Force weapons? As dusk settled, the warm glow of the setting sun bathed the Ministry of National Defense headquarters, where the South Korean flag fluttered gently in the breeze. Amidst the quiet, a voice rang out, capturing everyone's attention. Breaking news. A lone raider has cleared the 53rd floor of the Red Gate raid. What nonsense! Who made up such a ridiculous story? A soldier in civilian clothes quickly defended himself. It's true. I'm not lying. Sergeant Lee Hyun-guk even received a recruitment offer from the Blue Flower Guild. Those around him listened with astonishment etched on their faces. What? They began to murmur, the rumors spreading like wildfire. One person voiced their skepticism. No way. That's hard to believe. Isn't his achievement even higher than Sergeant Choi Yong-hun's? A man in a gray suit standing nearby added, Sergeant Choi Yong-hun, who always tops the leaderboard. When Sergeant Choi Yong-hun returns from his mission, we need to hold a competition to determine who the true leader is. The soldier in uniform remained silent, only frowning in annoyance as he adjusted his cap. The next morning, in a quiet garden, soldiers from other squads watched. Choi Taeyong and Lee Min. The surrounding air suddenly buzzed with noise. Whispers and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Is that them? You mean the all F-rank squad? Taeyong mumbled, his head down. Don't you feel uncomfortable? Min, he replied softly. People always ignored us like we were air, but now we're the center of attention. I'm still not used to this. Taeyong watched Jun Mo excitedly recounting the story to a group of girls. He sighed. Why couldn't this happen to Private Park Jun Mo? Jun Mo eagerly recounted his exploits. And then suddenly, right at that moment, Sergeant Lee Hyun-guk ran out of mana. We jumped in and held back the zombies. Man, it was really scary. They sat facing each other, hands on the table, A faint blush crept across the young man's face as his teammate recounted their glorious victory. The short-haired girl spoke up, curiosity evident in her expression, but aside from the captain. How are the other team members so strong? The young man smirked, covering half his face with his hand. It's all thanks to Sergeant Lee's special training methods. It's all thanks to Sergeant Yee's special training methods. Meanwhile, in a hidden corner, a man was devouring a golden crown. He gnawed and crunched, taking large bites, struggling to swallow the treasure hole. Suddenly, the door burst open. Lee Won-suk entered, saluting. "Reporting, sir. Private Lee Won-suk reporting for duty, sir. I'm here regarding a matter concerning the strike team." After finishing his report, he walked to the center of the room, knelt, and bowed low. A deep voice echoed, "Sergeant, I beg you to forgive my insolence. Just this once." The sergeant remained silent, only glancing at the kneeling man with an unreadable expression, thinking to himself, why does this guy have to show up now? What nuisance. Seeing Wu Yan's lack of reaction, he hastily apologized. "I know you don't want to see me," he said, groveling and begging for forgiveness. "I made a terrible mistake. I also yearn for your guidance, Master Hasi." Finishing his words, he looked up at Wu Yan, his eyes filled with a pleading look, hoping for a response. Just then, the system suddenly appeared. "You have absorbed the crown of light and shadow. Thermal energy efficiency in your body has reached 50%. 2400 hours, 57 and 23 seconds until the next rare metal is absorbed." Wu Yin frowned, concentrating on the content displayed on the screen, then lost in thought. The sight of terrifying monsters pouring out of the dimensional gate flashed in his mind. Lee Won-suk, I really don't like him, he thought to himself. But now is not the time for petty squabbles. The image of a ferocious dragon breathing fire and incinerating the city returned. The monster wave attacking Seoul is about to begin. We can't save all the soldiers in the squad. His uncle stood before him, his hands clenched in worry, determined to become a powerful ally in the coming battle, hoping to save more innocent lives. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. "Fine." June, overwhelmed with emotion, his eyes lit up with joy. Still in disbelief, he quickly asked, "Huh? Really?" Without elaborating, he coldly replied, "No more words." His voice stern, he continued, "You better prepare yourself for death." Finished speaking, he grabbed Won-suk by the collar, dragging him roughly, leaving him utterly stunned. He stammered, "Did I hear wrong?" Hyung-guk, while dragging Won-suk, replied in an icy tone, "Whether you heard it or not, I don't care." Won-suk wailed pathetically, "Ah, Sergeant." Hyung-guk. In the gloomy dungeon, a dark figure stood motionless like a statue. A fiery red gate suddenly appeared, spinning in the eerily silent space. King, his mouth covered in blood, hearing a strange noise, he instantly whipped around, his eyes sharp as knives, filled with suspicion. A massive, hulking orc suddenly stepped out of thin air. He angrily bared his sharp fangs and roared, "Do you know how much loot we've lost? All because of a fool like you. You couldn't even complete a simple test. Useless." Kong-ho hung his head in shame, mumbling, I'm sorry." Carol's sudden appearance made him jump. "Normally, we would leave you here to starve to death. But lucky for you, we've been summoned to this place." She licked her lips, her greedy gaze sweeping over her sharp fangs. Then she excitedly shrieked, her eyes blazing with madness. "Blood will paint Seoul red." Finally, the wave of destruction to consume Seoul has begun. A man in a pristine white suit, his hair snow white, stood silently observing the city glittering with lights in the dark night. Holding a phone to his ear, he heard a voice say, "Yes, that's right," on the gleaming surface of the desk. A nameplate sat neatly engraved with its owner's name. He frowned, intently listening to the voice on the other end of the line. The truth is, after witnessing this candidate's disastrous failure 7 times at the Seoul Gate, we are planning our next move. He turned around, as a voice on the other end addressed him as Chairman Baek Jun of the Daesun Guild, the leader of the 3rd-ranked guild in South Korea. Baek Jun continued walking, his hands still firmly gripping the phone in his palm. He had no intention of ending the call. "We have also gathered all the necessary information. So we're deploying personnel in the black market to monitor the situation closely and prevent any unforeseen circumstances. Why are you only reporting this now?" A moment later, Baek Jun approached a room. "I will do whatever it takes to find that key." His gaze was fixed on the tablet screen, displaying the data. The image of a soldier, drenched in blood, lying lifeless on the ground, appeared vividly. It seems the thief who stole the artifact uses fire as a weapon, so he's likely a member of the Monster Defense Squad. A scream of terror echoed from within the room, mingled with his icy voice. In the upcoming Seoul attack, we will open 4 gates simultaneously and scatter them throughout the city. Then, a few of my hounds will sweep through the entire 1st Battalion of the Monster Defense Squad. His maniacal laughter echoed. Yes, sir. You needn't worry. But the respondent's expression was the complete opposite, grimacing and clearly annoyed. I'll handle everything in Korea myself. Very well. Then allow me to call you back later. Baekjun crushed the phone in his hand, then threw it violently to the ground. A sharp cracking sound rang out. He then pushed the door open with a deafening screech, shattering the eerie silence of the room. His eyes took in the chaotic scene before him, revealing a suffocating space thick with the stench of blood and death. Corpses lay scattered across the cold floor. In the distance, through the hazy fog of destruction, a horde of zombies clawed and scrambled over a pile of bodies. Lost in a frenzy of bloodthirsty madness, he silently observed the horrific scene before him, then spoke in a raspy voice. "My butchers, I have new prey for you." Hearing their master's familiar voice, they all looked up. Kioriel paused her current activity, her hand still clutching a piece of raw meat, and replied with a trembling voice. "Yes, master. Please give us your command." She quickly moved to his side, awaiting his orders. The entire horde of butchers fell silent, anticipating the next attack. He continued, "When this attack begins, you will infiltrate the 1st Battalion of the Special Defense Force against monsters in Namsan. Eliminate anyone who's still breathing." She looked up at him, her eyebrows furrowed in suspicion. "Kill them any way we want?" The people behind them waited in silence for an answer. Baekjun nodded, and a look of delight spread across her face. A wide grin stretched from ear to ear. "Any way we want? Perfect. First, we'll wipe out that entire battalion from Seoul, and then we'll wipe Seoul off the map of Korea." The next day, the dawn broke, brilliant golden sunlight stretching across the hills. At the 3rd Brigade of the Special Defense Force against Monsters, 1st Battalion, a resounding shout rang out. Sergeant Lee Hyang-guk and 6 comrades reporting for duty. "We've received orders for promotion, sir." The young man raised his hand to his forehead in a sharp salute and shouted. Battalion Commander Kim Gang-yak, in his imposing uniform, muscles bulging, stepped forward. Standing on the platform, facing the young soldiers, the commander offered words of praise. "You all have done exceptionally well. Congratulations." On behalf of his comrades, the young man replied with a strong voice, "I am Sergeant Lee Hyang-guk." "Thank you, sir." Hyang-guk's squad mates all looked straight ahead, their eyes filled with pride and joy. The commander's gaze swept across the formation, his voice turning serious. "Ahem. I always believe that if every soldier in our army, from the highest-ranking officer to the lowest, dedicates themselves to fulfilling their duties, then we will build a truly strong military culture, one that is second to none." Hearing the familiar words, Lim Dim sighed wearily. "Ugh, another speech." Despite this, the commander continued his passionate speech. "That belief of mine has been proven completely accurate by all of you through your courageous fighting spirit. I'm truly proud. And furthermore," suddenly, an important call came in. Kong So-K raised his hand, signaling the commander to pause. "Oh, excuse me. Please wait a moment. When the conversation surprised you so much. What is it, Kaido?" "All right, I understand. I'll be right there. Lieutenant of the 2nd Platoon. Please conclude the promotion ceremony in my stead." He seemed a bit surprised by the request, but obeyed. Yes, sir." He nodded. Kaido's face darkened. He suddenly pictured a man with a sword, standing silently in the dark of night. His eyes, filled with sorrow, gazed upon the bloody corpse of Okita Kaido, the one who assassinated the Holy Sword. The cold-blooded killer who took the life of the Holy Sword, Guk Songpyo. Immediately after, security cameras captured his shadowy figure. In his past life, after receiving the news, he illegally entered the country at Busan port. When his whereabouts were exposed, the entire police force immediately gave chase, unwilling to miss the golden opportunity to capture Lieutenant Kim. Hans decided to leave the battalion and pursue him. Taking advantage of the moment, the battalion lost a powerful warrior. The vampires seized this opportunity to launch a massive attack. Unfortunately, even though only 2 vampires appeared, they slaughtered the entire 1st Battalion of the Monster Defense Squad. His memory ended there. It was at this moment he became absolutely certain that the horrific event he knew from the past had officially begun. The 2nd platoon leader brought out several items and placed them on the ground, along with a list, and declared loudly, "I hereby announce the results of the corporal re-evaluation. Private in Minty, Choi Minji, Private Choi Taewon, Park Sung-mo, Kim Kyung-jin, you're all promoted from rank E to rank D. Check your rewards. These are your new weapons. Register them at the office." All the new recruits stood at attention and shouted in unison, "Yes, sir." His train of thought continued to wander. Now the most important thing was whether the future he knew would actually happen or not. Will the future repeat the past? Will we be able to survive and escape this predetermined fate? Clouds drifted lazily across the deep blue sky. Sunlight filtered through the lush green leaves, painting a scene of peace and vitality. Amidst the joyful cheers of his teammates, Junmo stood silently, a faint smile on his face. "Amazing. Rank D. We did it," Baek Youngmo exclaimed excitedly. "I have a feeling we can do even better than this. At least 2 more ranks higher would be great." Suddenly, the others noticed something different about Junmo's expression. "Wait, hey, Sergeant Baek Youngmo," one of them asked. "Are you alright?" Hearing his name, he was startled back to reality. Junmo quickly raised his hand and gave a nervous laugh. I'm Phoenix. It's just, I kind of expected this result, so I'm not as excited as everyone else." He raised his weapon high, flashing a bright smile. Anyway, my reward is the ultimate weapon." 2 chests slowly creaked open, revealing neatly arranged long, white stakes inside. Everyone surrounded Hyung-guk, their eyes wide with astonishment. "Sergeant Lee Hyung-guk, those are stakes, not weapons, are they? Just wooden stakes?" He didn't answer, but silently stood up. Emerald green, spiritual energy enveloped the stakes, making them levitate in midair. He pondered. Everything was meticulously prepared. Worrying now would be futile. There was no other choice but to confront whatever future awaited him head-on. Whatever happened, he would charge forward, attacking, destroying, and crushing everything. Time flew by, and night gradually fell. With dark circles under his eyes, he stood silently observing, lost in thought. Nonsense, it's nothing. Just taking a leak. A few days later, at the guard post atop Namsan Mountain, a soldier was carrying out his watch duty. He turned his head and called out, "Sergeant Lee Hyung-guk." Hyung-guk looked up at the sky, sighing deeply. "We've been pulling all-nighters lately, haven't we? Don't you think so? I bet we've been duped again." Hyung-guk didn't reply immediately, but silently checked his watch, a pensive look on his face. Perhaps by luck, that unusual event hasn't occurred sooner than predicted. Or maybe there won't be any incident at all. That means the changes I've made weren't enough to impact that attack. He glanced at the other soldier with a stern look. Junimo, startled, quickly defending himself. "Oh no, I didn't mean I was dissatisfied with anything." Hyung-guk remained lost in thought. "If that's true, then I'm certain some strange event will bring hell on earth." Glamorous soul. Junimo, seeing him approach, raised his hands in increasing panic. Just the thought of it. Getting a few days leave to visit Grandma. I couldn't sleep a wink no matter how hard I tried. I swear I'm telling the truth. Believe me, buddy. With the certainty that the attack would happen today, he pressed Junimo for answers. "Do you believe me?" He stammered. "See Corporal Park, Junimo? I completely believe you, sir. I absolutely believe you." In the distance, a ginger tabby cat stared intensely at a bush, yowling fiercely, its fur on end. And you, hearing the answer, grinned from ear to ear. He holstered his gun and asked, "Yes or no? So from this moment on, we'll leave this position again." Junimo's eyes widened in confusion. "What's going on? Déjà vu?" Moments later, at a quiet roadside stall, a soldier exclaimed in surprise. "Aminte Park Song-mo," he called out loudly. "You two aren't asleep, are you?" Both guards replied in unison, "No, sir." The cat that was growling ferociously just now is now lying motionless, covered in wounds. Hanare adjusted her helmet and asked, "You two have been on night duty quite a lot lately. Are you all right?" Suemo, with dark circles under his sleep-deprived eyes, answered Private Bach. "I'm fine, sir. Minte spoke up, addressing Sergeant and Minte. Sergeant Lee Hyang-guk said, "This is a form of training, so we have to comply, sir." She smiled encouragingly. "Is that so? Then there's nothing we can do about it. Hyang-guk knows you're very capable, Minte. That's why he assigned this task to you. Keep it up." Hearing that, he couldn't help but blush in embarrassment. "Why, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll do my best," Era declared firmly. "Come on, you two. Stop sulking. If you two fall asleep, you'll regret it." Just then, he noticed a faint glimmer of light in the distance. Yes, sir." He immediately grabbed his gun and shouted a warning. "Hands up, don't move, or I'll shoot. Back away." When he didn't get a response, he yelled again, "I said back away." Song Imo gripped his weapon tightly, squinting into the darkness. "If you're alive, take one step forward. Turn around." From the darkness, the shadowy figure that had lunged at them earlier slowly materialized. Is that a zombie? A gunshot rang out. The bullet slammed into the creature's body. The zombie collapsed to the ground instantly. He gasped, his face pale with fright after firing the shot. The ground trembled violently, causing the spike traps around them to shift ominously. The sharp screech of grinding metal echoed through the air. Terrified, they tightened their grip on their weapons. All three of them felt the ground violently tremble beneath them. Sumo and Era's eyes widened in disbelief, their jaws dropping open. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Minty stood frozen like a statue. His eyes were wide with terror. He was completely stunned by the horrifying scene unfolding before him, unable to look away. From the darkness, roaring zombies poured out like a flood, charging straight ahead. "Ah!" Minty screamed, aiming through his scope. Both of them opened fire simultaneously. The sound of gunfire ripped through the air. Bullets tore into the relentlessly advancing horde of zombies. Even when shot down, other zombies continued to surge forward. Ferocious, with blood-red eyes, they showed no fear. Minnie ran towards a gate. Turning back, he yelled, "Sumo! Sumo, get over here, to the front door. Hurry!" Once both of them were inside, Minty immediately cast Magic Shield on the gate. They both screamed. They poured all their strength into holding back the relentless wave of zombies. The frenzied zombies, oblivious to death, charged relentlessly, attacking again and again despite being repelled. Chaos reigned. Screams of terror echoed through the air. Two soldiers stood behind a barricaded door, determined to prevent the bloodthirsty monsters from breaking through. A deafening explosion erupted, followed by a blinding flash of light. Soldiers immediately rushed towards the scene. Amidst the chaos, a thought suddenly struck someone. In the guard's break room, Hyang-guk gritted his teeth, his brow furrowed in concentration. The worst had finally happened. The horrific attack that would transform Seoul into a living hell had officially begun. Unha was focused on typing at her computer, alone in the main control room. She typed with only her index fingers, a cute pout on her face. Unha typed on the screen, "Overview of military trends," under the supervision and direction of, especially after she suddenly became uneasy, sensing something amiss around her. "Why do I have such a bad feeling?" She opened her door and stepped outside to investigate. Yuna quietly chanted the holy light incantation. Instantly, her two fingers erupted in brilliant flames. She approached and peered through the window of the adjacent room. Inside, the officers were in a state of chaos. Screams echoed everywhere. They were being constricted by giant pythons. Yuna watched in horror as the military officers were squeezed by the enormous reptiles. Suddenly, strange tendrils lashed out with incredible speed. They shot straight towards Yuna, startling her. The sharp tendrils aimed for her, as if trying to pierce her body. But luckily, Yuna dodged in time. A muscular leg suddenly appeared and delivered a swift kick to her face. "Got you." The third daughter of the Holy Knight Commander, I presume, Gang's powerful attack caused a loud explosion, sending both of them crashing through the window. Yuna was still conscious. She instantly shoved his leg away with her hand. Then, quick as a flash, delivered a devastating kick straight to his face. Unha poured all her strength into the blow, sending Kong Ho flying through the air like a rag doll. She landed perfectly, safe and sound, while he skidded across the ground, leaving a long trail of dust. Unha gently rubbed her cheek where he had struck her. "Who are you? Are you a SAO player?" Kong Ho's pants, torn open by her powerful attack, displayed a large rip. But the mark of Unha's hand on his pants quickly vanished. Annoyance flickered across her face. The skin where her power had touched him suddenly burst into flames. Not to mention his astonishingly fast recovery. Is he an AI? She wondered. Kong Ho stuck out his tongue in a sly manner. You don't need to know. Whoever you are, you will die by my hand. But killing such a beauty is a shame. He gripped the whip tightly. Witnessing this, Unha immediately took a defensive stance, preparing for battle. Suddenly, she heard a strange sound. She looked up, her eyes drawn to the source. Above, a gaping black hole was expanding. From within the abyss, countless skeletal figures in armor, carrying shields and swords, emerged with a terrifying presence. Unha stared in shock at the horrifying scene before her. Could that be some kind of gate? She wondered in a panic. An army this powerful. This can't be just a simple attack. Enraged, he lashed the whip towards Unha. I'm standing right in front of you. Yet you dare to let your mind wander elsewhere. The whip quickly wrapped around Anha's head. Before she could react, it tightened around her neck, dragging her along. He tightened his grip on the whip even further. I've heard you're quite arrogant, but if you want to act haughty, you should at least be aware of your surroundings. Unha was in grave danger. Her face contorted in pain as she thought, ugh, without a weapon, I'm completely helpless. Gangwei sneered, his voice dripping with malice. I'd love to toy with you a bit longer, but unfortunately, time doesn't permit, so I'll finish you off now. Yuna felt her strength draining away. I have to stay awake. I can't pass out. I have to fight back. I have to resist him. But her consciousness was slowly fading into darkness. Suddenly, Gong Hui's whip snapped. A bullet lodged itself squarely in it. A barrage of bullets followed, peppering the area around him. He gritted his teeth in fury, spitting out, "Who dares interrupt my fun?" Yuna focused her mind, slowly rising to her feet. She was astonished to see a pair of feet walking towards her. A man, gun in hand, approached. "Yuna, are you all right?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. It was her uncle. Yuna stared, stunned, then collapsed in front of her uncle. "Wai, why are you here?" He replied with a serious expression. "I came to save you." Sergeant First Class Lee Hyong-guk. Special ability, F-rank construct. She looked at him with suspicion in her eyes. "Did you save me?" Lieutenant Co. Unha, B-rank paladin. Lieutenant Kong Hobium looked at them both with irritation. Huh? What the hell is this? How dare you? Just like that bastard last time. You military types are all so damn annoying. Brother Gu feigned concern, taunting him. "Well, a long time no see. How have you been?" He smirked, taking off his hat. "You're not planning on running away again, are you?" He gritted his teeth, glaring at Kong Ho Beam. "You got some nerve, you little punk." A sea of zombies roared and clawed at the gate. The strike team desperately fought back against the monsters. "Hold the line. Just a little longer. The rapid response unit will be here any minute." The zombies were too numerous and ferocious, putting increasing pressure on the strike team. His feet wanted to retreat. They all vied to. Arms plunged into the ominous gateway. The strike team desperately fought back against the ferocious onslaught of enemies. A sense of unease permeated the air, as if the dimensional gate could collapse at any moment. Amidst the chaotic fray, a female warrior within the strike team swiftly flipped open an ancient tome and began chanting. "I'll provide mana support. Grit your teeth and hold the line," she shouted, her voice filled with unwavering determination. Two other members of the strike team, heeding her command, braced themselves against the cascading wave of zombies. They clenched their jaws and squeezed their eyes shut, focusing all their strength on holding back the bloodthirsty horde. In a moment that seemed utterly hopeless, a glimmer of hope appeared as reinforcements finally arrived. The rapid response unit. Hearing their arrival, a surge of joy filled the young man. They quickly approached and moved to their designated positions. Position A2, execute, a commanding voice boomed. Execute, everyone roared in unison, their morale soaring. Suddenly, brilliant magic circles materialized in the air. The blinding light threw the zombies into disarray and confusion. They froze, staring blankly at the mystical formations hovering above. Suddenly, a flickering shadow appeared. A vampire materialized ominously behind the strike team. He slowly drew a sharp weapon from his belt. "I've always wondered why those zombies are still lingering out there. No wonder everyone was caught off guard." Before they could react, she used her magic to take them down one by one. The female warrior in the assault team, hearing the commotion, turned to look. She flew onto the roof of the building, leaving the girl and the two gate guards utterly astonished. Aaron spoke calmly. "Well, now you see, don't you?" The young man was terrified out of his wits. The rapid response team hadn't even had time to recover. "At this rate, we're all going to die. She glared and shouted, "Huh? You dare ignore me?" The vampire raised her twin daggers menacingly and growled, "You're all just a bunch of pathetic, boring weaklings." She shrieked, "Die." The zombies roared with terrifying cries. Suddenly, they all fell silent, staring blankly at Sergeant Choi. John June was walking towards them, casually drinking. Even Aaron was surprised. "Is that guy crazy?" A zombie lurched toward Johnson and attacked unexpectedly, knocking the glass bottle from Johnson's hand, shattering it on the ground. Johnson mumbled curses in his drunken stupor. "Damn it, where's my booze? Which bastard drank it all?" He squinted, looking up, trying to find the culprit who ruined his precious bottle. "Was it you?" he slurred, a mixture of confusion and terror on his face as the monstrous figure before him growled menacingly. Without hesitation, Johnson quickly grabbed a sharp shard of the broken bottle and lunged at the surrounding zombies. Aaron flinched, startled by Johnson's sudden action. Drunk and stumbling, he raised the broken shard high, shouting, "Hey, are you the leader of these monsters? How are you going to compensate me?" From the rooftop, she let out an amused chuckle. "Oh, how interesting." The haughty vampire scoffed. "You seem quite confident in your speed. It's been a while since I've had this much fun." She laughed triumphantly. "Let me play with you for a bit." But before she could finish, Johnson suddenly attacked her from behind. "Enough of your monkey business. Give me back my liquor, ma." Sarone was terrified when she heard the chilling voice from behind. She spun around, preparing to attack Johnson, but he was one step ahead. He evaded her attack, and using a sharp shard of broken glass, brutally and unexpectedly sliced off Sarone's hand. Everyone witnessed the horrific scene. Sarone clutched her severed arm, screaming in agony. Two soldiers couldn't hide the joy on their faces. "He's finally here," they shouted in unison. "Sergeant Choi Jeonjin." Drunk, he pointed the broken shard at Sarone and slur warning. "Before I cut off something else, get out of here and bring me more liquor." She clutched her bleeding arm, looked up at him, and asked, "You're Choi Jeonjin, but they said you were transferred somewhere else." He mumbled drunkenly, stumbling as he raised the broken bottle high. "They asked me to take care of something. I finished the job, so I came back. Do you have a problem with me?" "Beautiful, huh? That doesn't matter. But what about my drink? What are you going to do?" Aaron roared furiously, spitting out the name of this madman. A sharp blade sliced through the rest of the bottle, sending shards flying. She lunged forward, swinging her sword relentlessly. Each razor-sharp, violet strike was perfectly evaded by Choi Jeonjin. Just as the sword was about to pierce Choi Jeonjin's face, he suddenly vanished. He quickly landed behind her, gritting his teeth. When did he? He sighed. "Damn it, she's going to ruin all the fun." Choi Jeonjin flicked his wrist, a dagger from his pocket flying into the air. He caught it precisely. "Lend me your bayonet." Worried, everyone urgently tried to dissuade Sergeant Choi Jeonjin. "It's just an ordinary bayonet. I'm afraid that won't be enough against her. I think she's a vampire." John June muttered, "No way she's a zombie." The other two retorted, "How can a zombie talk?" As soon as they finished speaking, the female vampire took a step forward. Aaron channeled all her strength into her legs, her muscles bulging. Thick blue veins bulged on her neck and cheeks. A strange mark appeared in one of her eyes. Choi Jun exclaimed, "No wonder. Everyone considers him the strongest candidate for the next Sword Saint. If that's the case, I will use all my speed to duel you." The female soldier with curly pink hair gasped in astonishment. An explosion echoed from the rooftop. "Try and stop me, if you can even see me." Before the female soldier could utter a word, Aaron lunged towards the drunkard, aiming her blade at his back. John June spun around, his bayonet clashing against Aaron's blade. Sparks flew. The pink-haired girl's face went pale. The two grappled fiercely. A terrifying energy erupted, creating swirling gusts of wind around them. The pink-haired officer kept yelling, "Careful!" The two gate guards stood frozen in shock. He swung his arm, sending the vampire flying. Aaron crashed into the wall, shattering it into pieces. A cloud of dust and debris forced everyone to shield their eyes. The strong wind whipped her pink hair, dragging her across the ground. The ground cracked under the tremendous force. Aaron spat out a mouthful of blood. Dojin watched her stagger to her feet with a mocking expression. "Oh dear, I was trying my best to be careful and control my metabolic rate. You see, because whenever my metabolism increases, I also instantly sober up." His glasses flashed with a cold light. "But now, the fun is really over." Her eyes widened in terror. Her pupils constricted violently as she heard his cold voice. Hey! He raised his blade, its sharp edge glinting, his eyes burning with a feral intensity. How do you intend to face the consequences of your actions? The vampire gritted his teeth, the mark on his right eye suddenly blazing with a brilliant light. Damn it! He's much stronger than I anticipated. I can't handle him alone. I have to get out of here. Now. Aaron bolted before John June could finish speaking. Hold it. I'm sober now. I have a question for you. The mark in her eye flickered rapidly as she quickly calculated her options. I need to regroup with the others and find a way to kill him. John June had caught up to Aaron. Trying to run, are we? With a flick of his wrist, his blade sliced past her ankle, thigh, and wrist. The vampire lost her balance, crashing to the ground, her back slamming against the utility pole. John June sneered. He glanced at the blood-soaked officers outside the gate. They were the undead, clawing to get in. She writhed in pain and let out a blood-curdling scream. Jong-in seemed completely unfazed by the piercing screams, echoing through the space as he coldly repeated his previous question. She's not a mindless corpse, so how can she control these monsters? Aaron angrily opened her mouth to retort, but he showed no mercy, delivering another kick. All right, I know what to do. Will you tell me? He growled. What are you, really? Some kind of mutated animal. Sujong glanced at the vampire, lying motionless on the ground. You just lie there and rest for a bit. I'll deal with these minions and come back to question you later. The night wind rustled through the forest, dry leaves whispering in the darkness. He jumped onto the gate and ordered his subordinates. All right, one of you, go tie her up. After giving his orders, the vampire turned to address the pink-haired girl. Lieutenant, wait until I've dealt with this lot. Then I'll report to you. Surprised, aren't you? Then he hastily added, all right, just finish them off and then report back. A soldier draws a gleaming long sword, its hilt intricately carved from solid gold. Sergeant Choi Jeonjin, I've been entrusted with a weapon imbued with divine power. Use it. Jeonjin refuses. There's no need for you to concern yourself, sir. But you can't destroy them with just an ordinary bayonet, can you? He gave a savage grin, madness flickering in his eyes. But if they die too easily, it wouldn't be any fun, would it? Making them die in agonizing pain, that's where the true pleasure lies. The two officers below shudder in horror. Jeonjin suddenly vanishes from sight. Lightning-fast sword strikes cut through the horde of undead with terrifying speed. The officer guarding the gate, witnessing the carnage, asks, do you feel that after Sergeant Lee Hyunjun cleansed his heart, his personality became somewhat similar to Sergeant Choi Jeonjin's? The survivor replied, every time those two laugh like that, I can't help but shudder in fear. Hyuk grabbed the hat and flashed a wide, white grin. It's been a long time since I've seen your sorry face. How have you been? You won't escape this time. Kong Ho's crimson eyes narrowed. You arrogant bastard, he roared. The vampire immediately lashed out with his whip. A sharp blade flashed, deflecting the whip's stinging blows. Drawing his weapon, the brother said to Una, Lieutenant, skeletons are pouring out of the dam gate, heading for the mess hall. Please take this weapon and rescue the soldiers there. Una vehemently protestive. He's a vampire. Without holy power, what are you going to do? He held up the sword he had just been fighting with. Fighting while protecting her is proving to be quite the challenge. Yuna gritted her teeth, resignation evident on her face. Hyung-suk swung his sword, blocking the whips lashing out with blinding speed. We need to find a weapon blessed by the gods, quickly. You're right. Absolutely right. If that's the case, then your performance so far, Hyung-suk, has been truly impressive. Yuna added a stern warning. You're not allowed to die. That's an order. With that, she left him to face Kong Ho. She accelerated, moving with the speed of a sharp blade, helping to intercept Kong Ho's relentless, storm-like attacks. He taunted them. You two should team up. It might actually be a fight then. You're going to let her escape? Hyung-suk retorted sarcastically. Oh, what a brilliant idea. I'm overjoyed that you're still alive. He was confused. What? Hyung-suk retracted his blade. You're still alive? So that means your leader doesn't know about me yet? You're still breathing. Because you never reported your pathetic failures the previous 7 times, did you? If you had, you wouldn't be alive to stand here now. Hearing this, he gritted his teeth in fury. You bastard. Gu continued his provocation. Kiki, seeing your intense reaction, I must have guessed correctly. Last time, we intentionally let you escape. Do you know how long I've had to endure that annoyance? This time, I'll send you straight to hell. Kango roared in outrage. You underestimate me. Black energy billowed from the whip in his hand. The red gem in his hand glowed brightly, but it was enveloped in a thick, dark aura. He unleashed his full power, amplified by his new weapon. With my current equipment, I've reached a whole new level, far beyond what I was before. Your meager, holy power is nothing to me. Hyun-guk's eyes widened in delight. Jackpot, we hit the mother lode. Exactly. In there, it's crammed with crates of precious items worth billions of won. South Korean won. Mind you, Kong-ho bristled at the taunt. Today you won't lay a finger on me, and I will personally tear you to shreds. Do you understand? The young man raised his wooden sword. A system window appeared, displaying item information. Name, Crown of Light and Shadow. Effect, rapidly increases defense. Resists undead attacks. Special ability, bestows chosen equipment with an aura. Holy light or dark magic aura. Warning, limitation when bestowing an aura upon equipment possessing two different energy sources. Cannot utilize two opposing power sources simultaneously. Only one may be chosen. A shimmering aura appeared around Hyun-guk's head. The twin blades in his hands simultaneously glowed brilliantly. The system's skill information suddenly appeared. Using the Holy Saint's aura. Effect, grants a designated piece of equipment, 10% of the crown's holy power. Restriction, reduces the user's magic power by 10%. Gang-ho was startled and horrified. How could he transform such an ordinary weapon into one possessing holy power? He triumphantly raised his weapon and boasted, "Who said I could only use holy beads? Today, I will use this very holy power to tear you into 100 pieces." Gang-ho furiously swung his whip and shouted, "You're thinking too far ahead. You think that meager amount of holy power can hurt me?" Hyun-guk smirked. "Let's see if I'm right. Are you scared now?" He roared in fury. "I'll rip your mouth apart. Let's see if you can still talk big now." The whip snaked through the air like a viper, striking towards Hyun-guk. He narrowly dodged the attack with a nimble sidestep. The whip followed his movements, relentlessly pursuing him. Hyun-guk quickly assessed the situation. Using a whip as a weapon? Huh? Seriously? Its reach is too long, and its trajectory is unpredictable. Defense is almost impossible. The whip cracked loudly against the wall. Then, with lightning speed, it changed direction and chased after Hyun-guk. He calculated his options. One hit from that, and I'm as good as dead. He was clearly at a disadvantage. Yet a smirk played on his lips. So this is what gives this fanatic so much confidence. The whip slammed into the wall again with a resounding boom. Hyun-guk leaped into the air to avoid it. But Kong-ho maintained his grip on his weapon, his eyes cold and focused, completely oblivious to the whip stealthily wrapping itself around his back. A plan was forming in Hyun-guk's mind. If we close the distance and engage in close combat, then his long-range advantage becomes a liability. Here, take this sword. Thrust it at him. I'll support you with my blade from behind. He let out a scornful laugh. From Kong-ho's weapon, a series of sharp spikes suddenly sprouted. They abruptly extended. Hard as steel, dense as thorns, yet flexible as jungle vines. In the blink of an eye, they ensnared my blade, grazed Uncle's hand, and knocked the sword from your grasp. At the same time, green streaks continuously spread across Jim's body, making him even more invincible. Uncle quickly spun around, evading the attack range. His body slammed into the ground, unleashing a chain of skills. You hastily got to your feet, dodging the thorny tendrils that lunged forward like a relentless storm, pressing Uncle. He frantically controlled them, attacking ceaselessly, laughing triumphantly as he said, "All that talk, and you're still running? Let's see how much further you can run." He observed the sharp blade surrounded by thorns. Those armored tentacles were completely unexpected. He had initially analyzed the situation, but now the tentacles completely blocked any close-range attacks. Getting closer. His initial plan was to exploit the whip's slow speed. He thought that if he continued like this, he might... The arrow, coated in shimmering green light, was hidden in the shadows, aimed directly at his opponent's back. The arrow, intended as a finishing blow, the final strike in his chain of attacks, launched from a distance, would be blocked. He summoned a long spear, its shaft enveloped in flowing blue magic. A new plan instantly formed in his mind. If that's the case, then, even though it will consume a considerable amount of magic. It seems I'll have to resort to the axillary spear. Kang Ho became increasingly frenzied, consumed by exhilaration. He reveled in the predatory thrill of watching his prey struggle in desperation. Run, keep running. Flee until I catch you. Hyung-suk slammed his foot down. The spear in his hand swung upward. He commanded, unlock. He leaped back, dodging the attack. Threads rapidly wrapped around the spear, emitting a blinding light. The system displayed the information of the newly unlocked item. Power of the axillary spear, hero, effect. Wounds inflicted by this spear will be incredibly difficult to heal. Penalty, consumes a large amount of mana. A massive amount of mana will be consumed upon activation and use. Mana konsumtion 21%. Hyung jumped back, breaking free from the binding threads. System notification, current mana after skill usage, 63%. He gritted his teeth. So, he realized, I'm using magical energy from the mana tank. A massive amount of mana stored within the armor to maintain combat strength. He's deliberately prolonging the fight, waiting for my mana to deplete. Hyuk-gu staggers, falling to his knees after being knocked back. This bastard seems incredibly well prepared. He's analyzed all my weaknesses during our fight. He reaches for the walkie-talkie in his pocket. The remaining vampires. Even if I use all my remaining mana, I can hardly do anything against him. He's truly arrogant. Finally, you understand your current predicament. Try acting confident like before. Let's see if you can still defeat me. Hyuk-gu grips the walkie-talkie, watching the incoming whip. A guess flashes through his mind. If that's true, he shouts into the walkie-talkie, Choi Tae-young. Kang Ho furrows his brow, a look of confusion on his face. A blinding flash of light suddenly erupted from the edge of the dark forest. The beam of light shot forward, piercing straight through his chest, leaving a faint trail of light, thin as a thread, across the night. A resounding boom echoed throughout the silent forest. Choi Tae-young lowered his still-smoking rifle and reported. Private Choi Tae-young reporting target hit. His comrade standing beside him. Corporal Choi Minji, rang D, observez position. Quickly updated the situation via radio to Sergeant Lee Hyung-guk. That gunshot might have compromised our position. We need to relocate to a safer position immediately. Tae-young stood up. Private Choi Tae-young, rank D, sharpshooter, suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed to the ground in agonizing pain, screaming, ah! Kang Ho was enraged. The gun on his shoulder began to charge with energy. A vibrant red energy pulsed and swirled. He gritted his teeth and growled furiously, "You bastard! I'll kill you!" Before he could launch any attack, a sharp arrow pierced his chest. His face was filled with disbelief. Seizing the opportunity, Hyun-guk charged forward, spear in hand. "Die, you foolish vampire!" he roared. The spear struck again, a fatal blow, unleashing a massive surge of energy. He stumbled back, blood gushing from his mouth, staining his face crimson. The flesh where the spear had pierced began to burn fiercely. The crown upon his head, the light and shadow surrounding Hyun-guk slowly faded. He groaned in utter agony. I was the one chosen by the leader," he gasped. "Why, how can this be? Who are you? An A-rank hunter, not even S-rank. How could you defeat me?" Hyun-guk calmly removed the ruby from the vampire's body. "Curious about me, even on the brink of death?" he smirked. "Fine, since you're such a disgusting nobleman, I'll tell you who I am." The young man whispered in his ear, his voice like a gentle breeze. The crown on his head began to dissolve, like a shimmering galaxy falling apart. "I'm just an ordinary F-rank hunter." Suddenly, the system displayed skill information. Skill Divinoha. Effect enhances the power of designated equipment. Specifically, Crown increases divine power by 10%. Penalty reduces mana consumption of a user by 10%. Kang Ho's face contorted in agony as holy fire began to spread. He roared in fury. "No, this can't be happening. I can't believe I'm being defeated by a weak F rank." His screams were swallowed by the raging inferno. "Impossible. It can't be true. No." The ruby fell to the ground, triggering a system notification. From a system. "Congratulations. You have successfully upgraded your mana container. Mana container has reached level 3. Mana absorption and storage capacity will be significantly increased." The young man gazed thoughtfully at the shimmering rubies in his hand, considering the energy absorption time. "From now on, I will only use half the capacity of this energy container. The other half will be reserved for emergencies." A sudden emergency alert blared. The young man quickly gathered his weapons and rushed out. Sergeant Lee Hyung-guk, The Scotland monsters are attacking Barracks 2. Hein-guk grabbed his radio, rapidly asking, "What's the current situation?" Taeyong, while observing the swarming Scotland like ants, reported frantically, "There are countless Scotlands, too many to count." He looked through his scope, his face grim. "At this rate, I'm afraid no one will make it out of here alive." Hein-guk frowned in thought. Suddenly, a Scotland turned, its eyes glowing a terrifying red. But in an instant, it was flung away by an oncoming vehicle. A soldier gripped the steering wheel, determination in his eyes. "You low-level Scotlands, I'll send you all to hell." The ferocious Skoltons blocked the road, pressing against the vehicle's windshield. Countless sharp blades pierced through the fragile glass, causing the soldier inside to scream in terror. 7 savage Skoltons surrounded the vehicle, leaving it no escape. Crimson blood flowed freely onto the ground, forming gruesome trails. A brutal Skolton held high the severed head of the unfortunate soldier, his face still frozen in horror. Not long ago, they were marching in neat formation. He cautiously poked her head out the window, surveying the situation outside. "They've killed the captain," she exclaimed worriedly. The 2 brave girls unleashed fierce flames, halting the monster's advance. An angry voice boomed. "Sergeant Kim stop daydreaming. We don't have the power to destroy them all." The soldier with the high ponytail said anxiously, "Those monsters, they're getting inside." He stepped forward, commanding in a calm voice, "Calm down. Don't waste your magic needlessly. Focus our fire on their densest point. That will slow their advance." She turned and asked, "What about the armory? Have the weapons been resupplied?" Another female soldier reported breathlessly, "Yes, but it seems Lieutenant Commander has the key to the armory." He clenched her fists anxiously. "Then break the door down or melt it open. I don't care how. Just get it open quickly. Our lives depend on those weapons. Don't give up." The girl watching at the window suddenly yelled, "Sergeant Kim, the Scots are scaling the walls and breaking in. Order incoming. Get away from the windows now." Her uncle rushed over and saw the Scots swarming like ants. "Since when were there so many of them?" "In Barracks 2, there are still so many of our comrades. No matter the cost, I can't lose them. Please God, keep Kim safe." A scorpion suddenly appeared behind Se. Everyone screamed in terror. "Sergeant Kim Se." In terror, she spun around to see a sharp blade swiftly descending. The pale moonlight cast down upon the withered legion. A deep voice echoed through the night. "Is it truly necessary for us to open the gates in the predetermined order?" He carried a heavy stone statue on his shoulder, his gaze directed at Karen, who was pensively overlooking the city before suggesting, "Karen, if we were to attack simultaneously, I believe we could complete this mission swiftly and efficiently." Ku went straight to the point without hesitation, coldly expressing his sole desire for survival. Gamak furrowed his brow, a look of confusion evident on his face. "What nonsense are you spouting?" Karen laughed loudly, his face filled with excitement, revealing frighteningly sharp fangs. How naive humans are, to have their fragile hopes of survival trampled beneath our feet. Witnessing her cruel demeanor, he thought to himself, "It seems your wicked nature hasn't changed at all." Suddenly, Donga emerged from the ground, calling out, "Karen, it seems the entire infiltration team has been completely eliminated." Gamak was startled, his voice rising in alarm. "Both of them?" He recounted the entire event. "We completely neutralized all communication methods, including security cameras. Any device capable of operating during the magic dispel phase. We arrived at the designated location and awaited the infiltration order. However, the result was unexpected." Dongha said in frustration. "Just who the hell came here?" Gomak asked angrily. "Didn't you say that? The Mountain Squad and the Sword Saint candidate weren't here." He hastily explained. "That was the information we verified before the infiltration." He turned and offered a hypothesis. "Could it have been Seo Onha, the daughter of the Paladin Knights captain?" The man nodded in response. "Currently, we have no choice but to admit that. Seo Onha is stronger than we anticipated." Carol suddenly spoke up and ordered, "Go down there and personally clean up that contaminated army at the barracks. By yourself." Hearing this, he snarled in fury, his sharp, dagger-like teeth bared. Kung Mok slammed his stone pillar into the ground in rage, roaring in frustration. "Damn it. Because of those damned bastards, I have to take care of this myself. The cold voice of the system echoed, issuing a warning. A gathering point of evil has been established in the area. Dark attribute stats increased by 50%. Undead attribute regeneration increased by 50%. The number of monsters emerging from the spatial gate increased by 100%. Suddenly, a spatial vortex appeared nearby. Kungmak and Karen stepped out of the spatial gate. He rubbed his hands together and asked Hung probingly, "Now that things have come to this, what do you think about turning that holy knight into one of us?" I frowned in annoyance and said, "I told you to follow orders, not just focus on CO1, huh?" He stepped forward and gave a sidelong glance. "Huh, do we look like those fools? I could crush them with a single blow." Karen shook his head doubtfully. "You think these few monsters can handle CO June?" A colossal foot suddenly appeared, crashing down with earth-shattering force that made the entire space tremble. A monster emerged, its ferocious face ablaze with crimson demonic fire. From the spatial gate, a horde of vicious monsters, weapons at the ready, poured out in a torrent. They laughed mockingly. I wonder what his face will look like when he falls into the abyss of despair. Huynguk cried out in alarm at the sight before him. He thought to himself, if I remember correctly, in my past life, there were two vampires who appeared. He frantically searched his memories for information related to that time. But considering that madman I met before, I can't be sure there won't be another one showing up, because he doesn't exist in my memories. In this urgent situation, the legion of undead is pouring in, vast like the Mongol hordes of old. Even if Camp 2 is under attack by the Ma clan, even if it's by those bloodthirsty vampires, the energy-enhanced spikes continue to rain down relentlessly. I absolutely cannot afford to lose a single AI. A mysterious green light envelopes them, controlling each spike, sending them flying with terrifying speed. Like green lightning bolts, they strike from behind the skeletal army. A skeletal soldier, hearing the noise, turns around in a panic. But before he can react, the glowing iron spike pierces through the brittle bones of one, then quickly pierces through another, turning it to ash. Countless sharp iron points, with extraordinary power, wipe out the outer layer of the massive legion. He focuses all his energy, creating a barrage of energy spikes, silently praying, hoping that everyone is safe and sound. Each spike rips through the air, hurtling towards the enemy one after another. He mustered all his strength to control the spear's trajectory and roared, a thunderous scream ripping through the air. Yay! The zombies were scattered and flung in all directions by his earth-shattering shriek. At the Kim SE military district building, a skeletal zombie was stealthily lurking behind the female sergeant who stood guard. She suddenly detected its presence. Just as the monster sword was about to cleave her head in two, emerald green streams of energy suddenly emanated from her body, dispersing into the surrounding air. A colossal spirit materialized, seizing the zombie's sword in its grasp. Asahi coldly questioned, "Who gave you the audacity to trespass into the women's barracks in such a state of undress?" Finishing her sentence, Asahi commanded the spirit to unleash a powerful punch, sending the skeletal figure flying. Hyun-guk, engrossed in combat, suddenly saw a zombie fall from a window. He quickly jumped up and anxiously asked Han, "Is everyone inside all right?" Witnessing the sight of Si standing there, controlling the spirit, but only managed to utter 3 words. "I came to save." He froze, astonishment flooding his senses. Glancing at the newcomer, he thought, "Who's saving who here?" Dangling precariously from the crumbling wall, he felt a surge of embarrassment. "Oh," he groaned inwardly. "She's truly extraordinary, even stronger than I could have imagined." She looked at him, confusion evident in her eyes. What in the world? Why is he trying to act cool after crawling out of that hole? He was starting to understand Kim Se-hee a little better. Despite being an onmyoge,